All right, welcome Sea Grant to WRRI. We are super excited for this informational session where we're going to learn about opportunities for faculty, students, and staff to participate in our statewide organizations dedicated to the coast and water resources. Caitlin, take
That
it
was
away.
great. Thank you. Thank you for having us today. So we're going to do some quick intro slides for both myself and Dr. John Fear. Oh, open.
Sometimes you have to click.
There we go. So I'll throw it over to John to kick that off.
Oh, thank you, Caitlin. So I am a alumnus of this great institution. I got my undergrad in biology and chemistry back when if you got a double major, they only let you get BA. So that's why it doesn't say BS. I'm not still salty about it, I promise. And then had such a good time, I decided to go down to the coast at the Coastal Lab in Morehead City, Institute for Marine Sciences, and got my dissertation through the School of Public Health and Environmental Sciences Engineering. And background coming up through that whole process, done a lot of work in estuarine ecology, water resources, nutrient management, sediments, and the integration of outreach into the research process. And that last one's what I'm really leading into now in my current position.
And a little bit about me. I studied marine science at NC State, and then I went up to the University of Delaware and did my thesis work on carbon sequestration in tidal marshes, which was really cool. So I share sediments as an interest with John, but my background really has been in water quality, flooding and resilience, as well as partnership and coalition building. And I do also have an interest in translating science to outreach and how can results and information be applied to real world issues. So that's sort of where I'm coming from as well. So we'll go ahead and jump in just the structure of the presentation. We'll talk about who the Water Resources Research Institute, or WRRI, is, as well as Sea Grant, and then go into some of the funding opportunities that both of these organizations offer. So to kick off, WRRI is one of 54 National Institutes for Water Resources. So each state has a water institute, as well as Guam, the Virgin Islands, DC, and I think I forgot, who's the third one? Guam, Virgin Islands, DC, Puerto Rico. That's right, thank you. And all of the institutes are housed at the land grant university. So we are at NC State University, but we work statewide across the full UNC system. The institutes were established in 1964 as a joint federal state partnership program. So our federal partner is the United States Geological Survey. And all institutes have a common mission to plan, conduct, or facilitate applied peer-reviewed research, as well as supporting early career faculty and scientists, and sharing results with water managers and the public, as well as collaborating with colleges and universities across the state with a focus of solving statewide water problems. So that's just a little bit of background about WRRI and how we sort of started and who we are today.
And then on the Sea Grant side, Sea Grant, as well as a federal state partnership program, there are 34 Sea Grants currently across the coastal states, the Great Lakes states, and then also Puerto Rico and Guam. They have planning grants right now to try to get one in the Northern Marianas and also in the United States Virgin Islands. So there might be 2 more Sea Grants, maybe a decade down the road, because it takes quite a while. The federal partner for Sea Grant is NOAA through Oceanic and Atmospheric Research. And similar to WRI, we are based at NC State, but we serve all public and private universities in the state of North Carolina, as well as the community college system. And the Sea Grant works across 4 broad thematic areas, which I think we have a slide later on that talks about these, so go forward. So yeah, here are the focus areas for both programs. Sea Grant has 4, healthy coastal ecosystems being the first, which you will notice all of these, they are so big you could drive a bus through them. So I want all the students to particularly pay attention to the statement, your work fits in here somewhere. So please apply when you see opportunities to us. Other 3 for Sea Grant are resilient communities and economies, sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, and environmental literacy and workforce development. And I'll throw it to Caitlin for the water focus areas.
Yeah, so for WRI, similarly, these are very, very broad. Support timely research needs, facilitate collaborative partnerships. We also have a focus on providing training and workforce development, as well as increasing environmental literacy. So definitely some overlap between both Sea Grant and WRI, which is why we work so closely together. Both programs have merged sort of administratively, and our directors oversee both programs as well as the Space Grant program. So lots of overlap there.
Can I ask a quick question? So I see that the Sea Grant focus areas are maybe more topically, like, yeah, I don't know if that's right, but topically focuses, whereas NC, the WRRIs feel more programmatically focused. Is that, I guess the timely research needs is where those topical areas might come into play. When I say topical, I'm talking about like the research part of.
Yeah, so that's actually a carryover. Sea Grant has a national office of 34 people and the government's open. And they have their own national focus areas, and the state programs have to tie into those. And so
Okay.
our state level focus areas for Sea Grant are very similar to the national ones. The NIWAR federal program has an office of one person, all 54 institutes. There's no national focus areas beyond do great things in water. USGS cares about water supply and water quality. And so these were kind of written by our staff when we did our first strategic plan 6 years ago. So that's why you see that distinction. Good catch.
And so I guess the WRI, part of that is also trying to tie it to USGS priorities when we can.
So just a quick plug, WRI each year, we host a conference in Raleigh. In 2026, it'll be on March 25th and 26th. We usually have over 300 attendees, and it's a very student-friendly event. A lot of students give their first talk or their first presentation. So definitely, if you are a student and looking for a local conference, this one might be really good. There's a variety of topics that are highlighted throughout the 2 days, including nutrient management, flooding policy, you name it. If it covers water, it fits into this conference. And we usually have representation from a variety of sectors, local government, state agencies, academia. So it's a nice conference just to network and meet people and share your research with folks who might be able to use it. So we do have a call for abstracts each fall. So for anyone who's interested in presenting, I would say look in September is usually when we release the call for abstracts. Okay, so we're going to jump into sort of our research programs, and for anyone who remembers the Magic 8 Ball, this is really just to say John and I are going to talk about some of our funding opportunities, which are available either every year or every other year. But like many people right now, there is a lot of uncertainty in terms of funding. So just keep that in mind. If you see an opportunity here, it's one that we're hoping to offer and we're planning to offer, but things can change. So this is just sort of our disclaimer on that. But I'll go ahead and jump into a few for WRI, and then I'll hand it over to John to talk about some of the Sea Grant opportunities. So for the Water Resources Research Institute, we have multiple funding opportunities that support faculty, graduate students, as well as communities. And these include the WRI USGS 104B faculty opportunity. I know it's sort of a weird name. The Mountains to Sea Graduate Student Fellowship, the Community Collaborative Research Grant. And those are the three that I'm going to talk a little bit more about today. But we also facilitate the USGS 104G opportunity, which is a national competition and requires collaboration with the USGS. We just sort of administer that on their behalf. And then we also facilitate the Urban Water Consortium and the Stormwater Consortium, who will sometimes put out their own requests for proposals based on needs and interests that they have. But there are none of those active right now. So I'm always happy to answer questions if folks have any, but I'm just going to focus on those first three for today. So the WRI USGS 104B grant is between the USGS and WRRI, obviously, and it is for faculty-led research or information transfer projects. So graduate students can work on these grants and be part of it, but the PI needs to be a faculty member. There's 2 stages to this competition. So there's a pre-proposal stage, and then a subset of applicants get invited to submit a full proposal. And these are for 1 or 2-year projects at $60,000 a year. And there's no match requirement. And we usually release the call for pre-proposals in the summer. So likely in August of 2026, we'll be releasing that. And this opportunity looks at research that investigates water quality and quantity, water availability, as well as water-related emerging needs. That's what the USGS is particularly interested in, at least in the past. And again, that is very, very broad, and it's likely that your research can fit somewhere in that category. Here in North Carolina, we work with our advisory committee as well as other experts in the state to sort of narrow in on some focus areas that are of particular need here in North Carolina. And those usually fall in 4 focus areas of non-point source and stormwater management, drinking water, wastewater, and water infrastructure, surface and groundwater quality, as well as ecosystem management. So these will change slightly from year to year, again, with input from experts in the state. So just keep that in mind as you're considering applying. We do work with the North Carolina Sea Grant on the Mountains to Sea Graduate Fellowship. So this is a joint opportunity between both programs. It is open right now with applications due November 17th. And this opportunity is usually released in the fall, likely in September. So just keep that in mind for future cycles. And this is for a graduate student-led project for 1 year. And there's a $10,000 stipend that comes along with that. And again, the target focus areas change a little bit from year to year, depending on the needs that we see in the state. I'm just listing a few for this cycle. So again, anything from water treatment to marine debris to algal blooms, economics, planning, policy are eligible. So again, we do keep it somewhat broad because we want students to be able to apply their research to this funding opportunity. So if you work in water or the coast, it's likely you're eligible.
And if you do have students that are interested, this does not have to go through sponsored programs for them to submit. They do need a letter of support from their PI. So they can wait sort of last minute, but only if their PI is being really, really nice.
And just to sort of drive the point home that there's a variety of research topics that are eligible. These are some of the Mountains to Sea Fellows from this past cycle. They have projects that started earlier this year. And again, they're looking at things from stormwater to well water to oyster reef restoration and beyond. So again, just lots of eligible topics for this competition.
What are the expected outcomes from the graduate students for that competition? Like, what would you look for in an application, or what would you hope that a graduate student has done by the end of it? Because I know they're small amounts of money, but the timeline is long.
Yeah, it's not a ton of money, so we obviously recognize that in our expectations, but I think it sort of depends on what the project topic is. I really try to emphasize for students, you know, think about your research and in terms of like who would be interested in the results. And that might tailor your outreach or your information sharing component. So it might be that the state or state agencies might be interested. It might be a local community would benefit from knowing about the research. So the outputs that we expect sort of, I think, depend on what the research topic is and what they plan to do. But yeah, we expect them to have a research question that they're going to address and answer that question, and then have ways to share the information somewhat broadly at the end of the project.
Lots of times students will use it to fund some summer work or to fund that extra question. Their committee said, hey, why don't you look at this, but they don't have the funding to look at that, whatever it was. Or to try to get one more paper under their belt. They can collect some data and try to get one more paper. And so all of those things are things we care about and are interested in supporting. So that's what students have done.
Yeah, we know it's not gonna fund a full, dissertation or project, so it is meant to sort of supplement here and there. Do you think that they just don't have money or resources? Alrighty, the last funding opportunity I'm going to talk about is the Community Collaborative Research Grant, which is another kind of joint opportunity between WRRI, Sea Grant, and the Keenan Institute for Engineering, Technology, and Science. And this opportunity is unique in that we require a two-person team. One person needs to be a scientific expert and one person is a local knowledge expert. And we just find that coupling two people as a partnership on the team leads to better outcomes and results of the project. So the scientific expert just might not know the local history or knowledge that somebody who is familiar with the community might have, and it just strengthens the results of the project. And we have found that a lot of projects that come in as a community collaborative research grant actually usually launch off to bigger efforts in the future. So it really has been a nice partnership between the three funding agencies, but this grant is for a one-year project. And again, pretty broad. Work should be relevant to the funding partner's interests, and this could include water resources, water quality, coastal challenges, flooding, post-storm recovery, those sorts of things. So if anyone is interested in applying, I definitely encourage you to take a look at the strategic plans for all three funding partners to see where your project area might align. There is a budget of $5,000 to $25,000 available per project. And we're actually going to open this opportunity this week. So keep an eye out maybe for an email announcement on that. Our websites are updated as well. And those applications will be due January 23rd. So, and all of the funding opportunities and information is available on our website as well.
I'll just add, this one does not rely on federal funding, so a little less ambiguous as to whether it will actually happen or not. This is foundation money and some residual other pots that are not federal.
And that is all from me. So I'll turn it over to John to talk a little bit about Sea Grant.
So let's pause there. Does anyone in the room have any questions on the water side? What Caitlin presented? Caitlin did a great job.
She did crystal clear.
All right, so on the Sea Grant side, again, Sea Grant, despite having sea in the name, is a statewide program. And so anytime you think about any of these opportunities, it doesn't always have to happen in the coastal region. You could be doing great work on storm recovery in North Carolina's mountains, obviously with the passing of Helene recently. Sea Grant has funding opportunities to, again, support faculty, graduate and undergraduate students, and communities through the CCRG program Caitlin just described. And I will talk about a few of these in the next slide. So let's go to the next one, Caitlin. The first one I'll talk about is the biennial competitive resource grant programs. These are the ones that NOAA requires us to do to be part of the Sea Grant program. These come out every 2 years. In North Carolina, they provide $150,000 of federal funds, and that has to be matched at 50%. So put all that together, it's a decent amount of money, but it's not $1 million project. So lots of times researchers use this to fund a student. You can get a graduate student out of this just barely after overhead. And you can use it to get the seed data or proof of concept you need to then go after the multi-million-dollar NSF or NIH or something like that. These are cycle-wise just completed. So we have a set of 9 projects that are supposed to start in February of 2026 for 2 years, but that means in November 2026, we'll start the whole process over because it takes about 1.5 years to do the full pre-proposal, full proposal, peer review, tech panel, revisions. It's a long process. And at each step along the way, we get feedback back to the faculty members so that they can see maybe why they weren't funded. Usually we get great applications and they go, these are great reviews. Why didn't I get funded? Same question, just from the different side of the coin. And the answer is we just don't have enough money to fund all the great projects we get. I will say though, once you write your full proposal, you have about a 25% chance of being funded. So much greater odds than NSF. And so I do encourage people to please apply because we do some good work through this small program. Next slide, Caitlin. Sea Grant has, at least North Carolina Sea Grant has about 10 student fellowship opportunities throughout the year that students can apply to. Most are geared toward graduate students, but they fund students in all parts of their career. So we have 2 that will fund a student right when they finish, get their degree, and they're looking for their first job. We have 2 fellowship opportunities that will pay them a 1-year postgraduate fellowship. One is Canal Marine Policy Fellowship. You get to go to DC for a year. You get paid a stipend of $71,400, which sounds like a lot for North Carolina, but in DC, you're still going to eat a lot of ramen noodles, but you're going to get a year of experience in DC working in an agency or on the Hill. And if you do great work in normal times, you can find a way to stick around. And Canals Fellows do have direct hire authority associated with them. So if you finish the fellowship, an agency can hire you directly without any prior federal service. So that's a good deal. It's such a good deal that we said we should model that in North Carolina. So we created the North Carolina STEM Policy Fellowship. And this also is a 1-year postgraduate fellowship for a student who just finished their degree. Sea Grant will pay you $52,500 for your stipend for the year and will place you in cabinet agencies in North Carolina or similar quasi-cabinet agencies like the North Carolina Biotechnology Center. And then the third fellowship that is national in scope is the Sea Grant NIMS Fellowship. This will actually give a student money to finish their dissertation. And in this case, it's real money. This would fund a full student at $66,700 over 3 years. And so that's getting close to maybe funding your grad student, and a good portion of their work anyway. So those are the 3 national level fellowships we oversee. But the more exciting ones for a lot of the students in our state are our state level fellowships. And that's what this slide represents. And this is not all of them, but these are the ones I wanted to talk about today. You'll see most of these are in partnership with another entity. And that happens for 2 reasons. One, they split funded with us. So if a student's getting 10,000, that means they're getting 5,000 Sea Grants money and 5,000 of the National History and Research Reserves money in the top one's case. And that lets the student be exposed to 2 different organizations with 2 different needs, 2 different strategic plans. And it really exposes them to more than they would get if it was just our money. And so the first one is in partnership with our National History and Research Reserve. The NEARS program is a federal state partnership program similar to the WRRI and Sea Grant program. NOAA is the partner for the NEARS program as well. And the student gets $10,000 for 1 year of work related to needs that the reserves have to manage their 10 properties in North Carolina. The one in yellow is currently open. That is our partnership with the Albemarle Pamlico National Estuary Partnership. APNEP is a federal state partnership program. In this case, the federal partner is the EPA. And APNEP has a boundary of North Carolina that basically covers the whole northeast corner of the state from about Raleigh down to Moorhead and then out toward Corolla. And the only requirement is you have to do the work within APNEP's management boundary. That lets them help pay for this fellowship. This one just changed. We upped it to $20,000 for 2 years of work. And the idea there was lots of times students get the money and they, even with 10,000, they need a no-cost extension. They're not getting work done within 1 year. Some of that's because it takes time to get funding, but usually it's just because science takes more time than you plan for it when you write the proposal. And so we said, well, let's make this bigger. Let's give a student $20,000 and give them 2 years to get the work done. And so we're trying that out this year. That's currently open. Those are due the 17th of November. So if you have any students working on coastal issues, water quality issues, habitat issues in the Albemarle boundary, please submit a proposal. The next one is in partnership with North Carolina Space Grant. North Carolina Space Grant is also overseen by Susan White, our director. And in this case, we require a student to use NASA or NOAA's remote sensed resources. That can be satellite data, that can be a drone data, that can be a plane taking pictures. It can be you throwing a camera up in the air and snapping pictures. We don't care. We don't specify. You just have to use remote sense data to help you answer your question. And the cool thing about this one is we have a nice collaboration with our sister programs in Louisiana. And so while you're getting funded to do your work here in North Carolina, we have set tie-ins with the students from Louisiana who are doing the same thing. And you get exposed to the Gulf Coast problems and issues, and their students get exposed to North Carolina issues. And you really do get a nice regional perspective for your work. And the students last year really found great value in that. The last one I want to talk about is the team resilience competition. And this one has been going on for 3 years. And Dr. Smiley from this program knocked this out of the park with her team in the first round of this. I mean, they set the gold standard so high. I don't know how we recover from that.
So they're.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, this one requires a graduate and undergraduate team to work together to answer an important question in North Carolina's coastal region. We give them $20,000 and 2 years of time to do the work. And they have to decide how to allocate that 20,000 amongst the team members. They have to decide, you know, do I want 2 undergrads, 1 grad? Do I want 2 grads, 2 undergrads, or do I just want a 2-person team? And the lead graduate student really gets the first experience of managing a team, making those kinds of budgetary decisions, and then reporting back to the funding agency. And to me, I think the lead graduate student on that team's competition, that setup really gives them a great training to be an academic faculty member. Whereas some of these others, I mean, they're great programs, but if that's what someone wants to do, this really does help them understand what that looks like. And then that's the QR code that will lead you to all of these funding opportunities. So just break your phones out, snap a picture of that, and then you can keep up with all the latest and greatest funding opportunities for Sea Grant.
So lastly, we'll just end with some just general tips for proposal writing. The first one being read the RFP carefully, which I know sounds pretty basic, but they can be pretty detailed, and there's a lot of instructions, as well as the objectives of the funding program, as well as the review criteria. So what is being looked for in proposals. So yeah, I just encourage you to read the RFP very carefully. John and I put a lot of time into making sure that they're updated and accurate. So definitely take a look at that before reaching out with any questions. In your proposal, we always encourage people to be clear and concise. Don't assume the reviewers know everything. They may not know about one of your previous projects that you're referencing, or acronyms, or that sort of thing. So be clear and concise, but do explain, you know, any sort of past work that you're referencing. Include the relevance to the funders as well as your field and the importance of work. Don't assume that the reviewers are gonna make those conclusions for you. We want you to be telling us why your work is important. Most of our funding opportunities require clearly stated research questions, hypotheses, or objectives. So again, just make sure you're including that information. Letters of support can be really, really important. They just really do strengthen an application, especially if you have a letter from an end user or stakeholder or someone who can speak to why the work that you're proposing is important. So just keep that in mind as you're preparing your proposals or reaching out to partners. The letters of support just really can strengthen an application. And same for if you're a faculty mentor who's providing a letter about a student, again, speaking to their strengths and why they're qualified to carry out the project can be really helpful. Student engagement and support. We always want to see students involved in projects where possible, as well as end users and folks who are going to be using the information that comes out of a project. Don't wait until the last minute. I promise you, for every opportunity we have open, there's somebody who reaches out at 4:50 panicking because they can't get into our online portal. Please don't be that person. We cannot usually accept late applications and the portal can be a little confusing. So definitely log in early, create your account, become familiar with it, and don't wait until the last 10 minutes to submit your proposal. And just reach out with ideas or questions early. John and I are always available, as well as other folks on our research team, to answer questions about any opportunities. So just always feel free to reach out with an email, or we can schedule a brief call to talk if needed. Anything you want to add there, John?
I'll just say letter of support where we get 3 in the same paragraph. Those are not as good as if they're a unique letter of support where the person actually tells why your work's important to them and their organization.
And I think that's it. So this is our contact info for anyone who wants to reach out or has questions. And that's all we have today.
That was awesome. Thank you. So I have a question for faculty and maybe senior grad students and postdocs who haven't been involved. It seems to me that being a reviewer could be really helpful. Should they reach out to you two if folks are interested potentially in getting involved as an expert reviewer?
Yeah, absolutely. We are the contact people.
Mhm.
We would of course have to make sure there's no conflict of interest if you're reviewing someone else within North Carolina. We want to make sure there's no opportunity for anyone to perceive, even if there's not any, a conflict. But yes, that's exactly correct, Mike. And I would add to that, if students, senior students, or early faculty members can be on hiring committees. That is the easiest way to learn what not to do in an interview, is to be on the other side of the table, because you will quickly see what doesn't work.
And Caitlin, thinking about your guidance for writing the proposal, is it still true that the early review stage is with general experts / practitioners rather than deep subject matter experts?
Yeah, so that process, the pre-proposals are reviewed by general experts in the state. And then for the full proposals, that goes out to like a national peer review, as well as a technical review panel at the end.
Yeah, and I just think that underscores the need to have it be really accessible.
Yeah, so that first stage, they are really commenting on the need for the work is a big part of that pre-proposal.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.